You know, for me, it is about making sure that every community in this country gets to thrive to the same extent as every other one. And
Carmel Sepuloni's appointment as Deputy Prime Minister is being celebrated as a win for the Pacific community. The West Auckland-based MP will become the first Pacifica person to take on the role.
I am proudly Samoan, Tongan and New Zealand European, and represent generations of New Zealanders.
Not have our potential realised as Pacifica people, you know, our kids, our families, our communities. We just want to do as well as everyone else. I mean, they're amazing, you know, like I look at my dad who came here with no English and all that he achieved and how hard he worked. Even sometimes waking up in the morning with full-on guilt, but not wanting to miss a day of work and finding his way. There's so much ahead, and I think that we've got so many men that we can look back on who make us proud, including, like I said, that first generation that came over. And so there's everything to be positive about when it comes to our men, and those are the role models that we should be looking to as the example of what it means to be a Pacifica man.
Welcome to Mandate, where we navigate fresh perspectives and nothing is off the table. Tonight's guest is from kōrero. In fact, she's from a place called Waitara out in Taranaki. She's an amazing woman, a wahine toa, who has a distinguished career within and outside of politics. She's spent many of years in the education and the health sectors, and also has helped to contribute in terms of the social development within New Zealand. She is the very first Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand who is of Pacifica descent, and yes, of Tongan, Samoan and Pākehā. And also she is an amazing woman who also represents the Labour Party, represents the 676, also represents the 685, baby. But most importantly, she is an amazing wife and an incredible mother to 4 boys, but also has an incredible story to share. Please put your hands together for the one and only, the Honourable Carmel Sepuloni.
Mahalo lava.
Mahalo lava sui fua, Carmel, and mahalo lei. And so just thank you. Welcome to the Mandate podcast. It's an absolute privilege and a pleasure and an honour to have you grace our lovely podcast studio. And so where do we start, Carmel? Because I'm thinking we could either go down the political route, but I'm thinking, and I'm assuming that all the listeners and the viewers, they are probably wanting to know more about the woman behind the politics, the woman outside of caucus. And so I thought just to start the ball rolling, Carmel, because 1996, let's see if we can run it back. 1996, you leave Taranaki, you come to Okilani, studying Diploma of Teaching and also a Bachelor of Education. And so tell us why did you leave Taranaki, why Auckland, and the rationale behind the journey to Okilani?
Yeah. Big questions, but really the number one reason I came to Auckland was I was born and raised small town New Zealand, a town of 5,000 people. I did go to New Plymouth Girls High School, so kind of stepped into a bigger space. But when I was leaving home, I wanted to come to the biggest city in the country, and I wanted to come to the city where all our Pacifica people were. We didn't have many growing up down in Taranaki. It's not known as the capital of Polynesian people in this country or in the Pacific. So I wanted to really be around our people because I hadn't had the opportunity to do that. So, of course, came here for the opportunity to go to university, but also to learn more about who I am and about who my community was. And so it was exciting times. I was 18 years old, and oh my gosh, that first year was just amazing.
Oh, awesome. And so I'm worried because you started off obviously education in the health sector for many years. And so how did that kind of springboard or become the catalyst to you now in terms of politics? How did that all unravel and how did that all unfold to now?
Yeah, I've always been political. My secondary school friends thought I was a bit weird and thought it was quite funny that I had an interest in politics. I even joked to them that this is something I do, which is kind of out the gate when you're a working class kid from Waitara to say that this is potentially the future trajectory for your career. And then lost sight of that, I think, as I got a little bit older and came to university. But very clear about wanting to serve our community and thought it was through education and did do it through education. But along the way became very cognizant of the inequities that existed for us as Pacifica people and for other groups as well. And that, of course, made me feel that heightened sense of being political on things. And then eventually more and more political, met people who were in the political space, people like my good friend Jerome Meeker, got introduced to the Labour Party, and then the rest is history. It just all happened.
Wow. Because I know often you talk about your dad, and so I'm thinking you're saying that it was kind of like in you. It's like kind of like a part of your DNA. I know your father you worked in the freezing works, advocate for the union and so forth. And so, and obviously limited English, a man, Samoan and Tongan. And so would it be fair to say that because of him, and also your lovely mother, was it something that was kind of like embedded in you, or something that you just like knew that I just want to go down this route? It was just something I need to be vocal about, helping our people and social injustice and so forth.
Yeah. Well, I saw it. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And small towns across New Zealand were very much impacted by the economic context of that time. You saw communities where people had always worked all of a sudden living in places where those opportunities to work were taken away. And so for us, that was the freezing works shutting down. And that was a similar story to lots of other places in the country. But also at that time, we saw this narrative around those people who lost their jobs. And that was very negative. Dole bludgers, these people need to get off their butts and go out and work. Well, actually, there weren't the jobs for them to be able to take up. And so even as a person in my early teens at that time, I could see the injustice even in the rhetoric, even in the way the politicians were talking about people in communities. And could feel the impact within our own family and the families of friends and family that were living around us as well.
Malo. And so you talk about the injustice and the ripple effect as well. And so, because obviously Mandate is, majority of the viewers are majority are men and Aotani. And so, because I know, and you're also raising 4 boys yourself. And so I was just wondering.
Not by myself.
Oh, not by yourself. Yes, not by yourself. Yeah. But in terms of our men, how would you describe the current state of our men when you look, obviously the injustice and so forth? Do you think that has played a deep part in terms of our men? And do you see some of the changes? Are they for the better or for the worse?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think, if we reflect on it, as Pacifica women, Pacifica men, we experience the challenges differently. We experience discrimination, sometimes in the same way, sometimes differently. I think there's often an expectation on the shoulders of our men to be able to provide and be those role models, and there's pressure that comes with that. But then for our women as well, there's a discrimination that exists for us. Our women are often at the bottom. If we think about those who earn the least in this country, it's Pacifica women. If we think about those that are more likely to find themselves in precarious or low-paid work, it is our women. And so that doesn't mean that our women have it worse than our men, but sometimes we experience discrimination and the challenges that come our way differently.
Hello. Also, you mentioned discrimination and just so as to be back into your political career, Carmel, because what you've done is groundbreaking. Whether you like it or not, it is very groundbreaking in terms of you're the Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand, the first of Pacific descent. And I sit here because I'm proud. I'm very proud, very proud. And I'm not just saying for the sake of saying it because you're here with me, because I'm proud Samoan 685, baby. And so and so when you represent not just yourself, your kainga, your familia, your ainga, your whānau, but you represent more than just that. You represent our people, but also a nation. Nationwide, all these different in between, all the people that in Aotearoa. And so how did that feel in terms of the responsibility? how did you have to deal with that responsibility,
Yeah.
and how did you carry that on your shoulders, especially in this space, and also when you talk about discrimination, where sometimes it's easy to like, just another brown person, another brown face, maybe. How does she get in? How does she get into to that position?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, when the opportunity came up to be Deputy Prime Minister, I was very genuinely ready. And I think that's important. It wasn't like someone was asking me to step into a space that I was unsure about. It was that I was genuinely ready for that. And that doesn't, that comes off the back of many years of preparation, not preparing for a particular role, but sometimes you are on a journey, not knowing that every little step you take is preparing you for a particular place. You're not planning to get there, but this is what happens. So it was important to be ready, and I was ready, and I was very mindful of the what this would mean to our Pacific community. When I actually got home, we'd just got home from the away caucus, and I knew there was a good chance that I would be the Deputy Prime Minister. It's the Prime Minister that chooses, the leader of the Labour Party that chooses, and we'd already had those conversations, so I was aware. And I got home and I pulled Darren, my husband, outside, and I told him, that this is likely to happen. Oh my God, I don't come on here expecting to get emotional. But he came out and we were talking, and then he cried because he said, this means so much to our family and our community. And yeah, it did. So this. I don't want to be like Duncan Garner and crying all the time like we did on Celebrity Treasure Island.
My Lord.
And then I would run into our Pacific community, have meetings with our Pacific community, and they made it very clear and reinforced that was the case. I'll never forget this one particular meeting we had with our Pacific community down in Wellington. And one of our women leaders and elders was speaking, and she said that when I became Deputy Prime Minister, they all became Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand. And so, those stories, they bring expectation, but also that you've got the support of your community.
Malo pitua, Carmel. And it is, I think, because you're sitting with me and I have the luxury of just having a talanoa with you. Mm-hmm. And obviously when you walk through those doors and leadership, and obviously your Samoan roots, your Tongan roots, your Pākehā roots. And so how is your leadership in terms of your culture, how's your identity shaped your leadership style thus far, because you're in this position, and it's more so when you're as the Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand?
Yeah. I realised when I had that election that I lost. So I was in for 3 years, and then I lost at the next election a seat by 9 votes. And I had that 3 years out. I had some time to reflect, because that first term, I didn't even know what I was doing in there. I was like a fish out of water. I knew the least compared to the rest of my class that got in 2008, because we call it the class of 2008. And so I had 3 years to think about whether I really wanted to go back and what I wanted to achieve and how I wanted to do it. And one of the main reflections for me was on if I was going to be successful in politics, I was going to need to know how to influence others, and because you can't get your ideas across the line if you're the only one that believes in those ideas. And then I realized that actually it's all about relationships, and we're very good with relationships. And actually that's a strength of mine. And for us as Pacifica people, they are key to everything. And so when I did get back in 2014, in a sincere way, not in a way of just pursuing some kind of individual agenda, I thought the way I'm going to work in this place is by having and building strong relationships and building trust amongst my colleagues and the people that I will engage with in this place and outside as well. Well, that set me in good stead, because then actually it's not just about what you want to achieve, but in relationships, you're listening to others and you're trying to take on their ideas, and it's a two-way thing. And so I have always, since that time, being very much focused on the strength of relationships, which is what we're about as Pacifica people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe it's put you in good stead, like you said.
Yeah.
And I look at your career, and it's. I don't say I'm not speaking like it's finished or so forth, but it is. It's just. I feel like
I hope not.
I feel like just beginning, and it's just even more so progressing. And I look at your portfolio in terms of the ministerial roles that you've had. You're the Minister of Arts, Culture and Heritage, the Minister of ACC, the Minister of Social Development and Employment, and one that I'm very interested in because I'm the Minister of Disability Issues.
Yeah.
I have a daughter who has Downs,
Ah.
and for me, I'm just very proud, and she's just like any other person. I love her to bits. And so, in terms of the minister in terms of disability and issues, what are you most proud of in terms of the legislation, even the kaupapa around it, even some of the work that you've done to help our people who with disabilities?
Yeah. Certainly one of the big achievements was setting up the Ministry for Disabled People. That had been called for a long period of time. Does that mean that there's not a few wrinkles that need to be ironed out? No, there still is. But we had to take the step to set it up. Otherwise, it never would have been set up. And disabled people were asking for it for such a long period of time. There were other things that we did, like we finally had a disabled person's employment strategy. Whenever we talk about employment in this country, we refer to young people, we refer to Māori and Pacific having the highest rates of unemployment. Disabled people have the highest rates of unemployment, and the vast majority want to work, but they're not given an opportunity to work. So for me, there's so much more work that needs to go on in that space. There were investments that we made through health, there were investments we made through education. There was a lot that happened, but not enough, because we're coming off the back of decades of underinvestment. And we still live in a day and age where disabled people every day are going to be faced with challenges and barriers, and they are disabled by their environments, they're disabled by the attitudes that exist. And so I just strongly believe that this has to be a much greater focus for us and for any government moving forward, because we're missing out on so much by not actually taking advantage of all the potential that is there.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Because I do see that it's sometimes that you get all these other issues that are happening and all these other cohorts of people are talking about, but sometimes those with disabilities are kind of missed out. And so I'm glad you talked about and you touched on that as well. And so appreciate that. And so, because I'm just talking about my daughter, but family, I know kainga and family is very important to you. And you mentioned your husband, Darren Kamali, and I'm a big fan of Darren, but back in the days.
I'm a big fan too.
Big fan of Darren and his music and his poetry and so forth. And so, blended family.
Yeah.
And so, 4 boys, how do you juggle all of that? Because you're an absolutely busy woman. How do you juggle all of that in the mix, and then a blended family alongside of everything that you do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, acknowledging that my stepsons, even though we don't use the word step and stuff like that very often, but just to give it some context, they have their mums too. So like they've split bit time, and 2 of our boys are older now. One's at university, the other one has his own family. He's got 2 kids. And then our 15-year-old and our 12-year-old are with us a lot of the time. But I'm lucky. I've got my husband there to support, and we're also lucky because we've got our parents. And so we've got my dad who lives downstairs in our house. We've got my mother-in-law who's with us half the time, and the other half with Darren's sister, and she's upstairs with us in their house. And so we have that multi-generational living arrangement that many of us as Pacifica have, whereby it's not just us with the kids. It's not just us raising the kids. We've got the support of that generation with raising kids, because we wouldn't be able to do it by ourselves. We're both working, we're barely home. And so we try to be the best parents when we are home, but we rely on our parents to support with raising the kids too.
Malo. And because you're in the political realm, Carmel, what is it like in the whānau, in the family? Do you want like, okay, mum, you're Labour, so we're automatically Labour. And so, what's the conversations like over the dinner table? What are the conversations? No, Mum, I choose National. I choose this. And so, what's it like? How do you?
There has been one of the kids, I won't say which one, who had a moment and was like upset and said that when they grow up they're going to vote Green Party, but that was a moment of anger. And there might have been one of our parents that thought that they would be smart and vote for New Zealand First, give New Zealand First their party vote one year. And they've never done it again because that was the year that I didn't get back in. So, we have those conversations, but the kids are not that interested in talking about politics. The kids want to talk about, I don't know, their kickboxing, their basketball, or they don't want to talk at all. They're boys, So we seldom have conversations about politics.
That's cool. And so, how do the boys look at you? Because you're in the public eye. And sometimes you're open to scrutiny now and then. People are like, and that's just the part and parcel. Yeah, Carmel.
Yeah.
You people are just going to say this and that. And so, you're a celebrity, whether you like it or not. You're a celebrity. And obviously Celebrity Island, or Treasure Island. And one of the coolest things that I saw was, and it went viral. I'm not too sure. And I think you know what I'm talking about, or the clip that I'm talking about. You and Gabby Solomona, and you're holding this block or brick, and then you just... And you in the midst of the anguish and the agony, and you are talking to her like, hey, come on, don't give up, don't give up. Obviously, people think, okay, Pacifica, naturally brute force, strong, physically strong, but the mental, and that's what I want to touch on, the mental capacity in you guiding Gabby pretty much, and you killed this challenge. Describe for me, where does that come from? Or how do you get to that place where you're like, no, and you're in absolute exhaustion and agony?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I was encouraging Gabby for the first 25 minutes maybe, but in the end, there was a switch, and it was Gabby that had to push me to continue. I think, where does it come from? We were Pacifica women together doing that challenge, and I didn't want us to lose. There's something for us as Pacifica women to prove, and in whatever fields we go into, whatever we're doing, we are constantly having to prove ourselves. And so I think for me and Gabby, it was important to prove ourselves in that challenge as well. But also, there was that sense of obligation and commitment to each other. Gabby didn't want to let me down when she was, despite the fact she was very uncomfortable for the first 20, 25 minutes. And then when she called on me to keep going, I didn't want to let her down. And that's how we work. I've always seen that and always felt that. Sometimes as Pacifica people, we will work harder and we will work, we will be stronger when we're doing it out of a sense of obligation to someone else than what we would do if we were just doing it for our own individual gain, because you don't want to let the other person down. And so I think our challenge really is demonstrative of that, but also very symbolic in that I was encouraging Gabby to begin with, and then the shoe was on the other foot. This next generation of strong Pacifica women coming through, who then step up to take that role of leadership and to guide the older person, even though I've said to Gabby, I'm not old enough to be her auntie or mum, I'm her older sister. But they step up to take the leadership role, I think is very symbolic too.
And it is, I like it because you're saying that obviously you and Gabby help encourage each other. And it seems to be an influx of a lot of these younger ones, entrepreneurship in terms of business, leadership roles. What do you say to our young Pacifica men and women, even before stepping into different spaces, they feel that they don't belong in?
That it never goes away, to be honest. But even I still experience that thing called imposter syndrome. But it fades and it hits you in situations less and less over time, I think. You become more comfortable with yourself. You become more comfortable in a range of spaces, and you've just got to continue to push yourself. But you've got to be also surrounded by people who support you and that you can trust, because when you doubt yourself or you think that you're not good enough in places or spaces, then it helps to have those people by your side who will remind you that you are good enough.
It's interesting you mentioned the imposter syndrome. I know you talked about it. I think one of the articles you mentioned it, and it seems like it's kind of like an emotion that you can't articulate or you can't explain the actual feeling, or put a name to it or label it. And it seems kind of current. People still talk about imposter syndrome, and then you have these young ones. And I'm glad you mentioned it, because sometimes even today I was thinking, who am I to be talking to Carmel, to the Honourable Carmel Sepuloni? And so you're right. I think the more we are in these spaces, the more that we're able to kind of push ourselves, and we have the ample supports. I think a lot of our people are going to see that, no, I belong here. I need to be in the space, and I can kill it. I can kill it. Actually, kill it in the space. And when I heard you talk about imposter syndrome in one of the articles, like, no, not Carmel. It can't be.
Yeah, no, I still feel it. And you know what? I don't think it has to be a bad thing all the time. I think sometimes a certain level of imposter syndrome can keep us humble, can keep us grounded, can remind us not to get too carried away with ourselves, because there's always the risk of that when you are doing well or you're in a space where you're achieving. And so, in some ways, having a little bit of it is not the worst thing in the world, and it's to be embraced. It's if it becomes debilitating and it stops you from being able to get on and live your life fulsomely and contribute and reach your potential, that it's a problem.
My Lord. And so I think obviously the communities, our men. What do you say to our men in terms of in the community, in terms of what do you think they need to hear in terms of identity and belonging in Aotearoa?
Oh, our men are amazing. You know, like I look at my dad who came here with no English and all that he achieved and how hard he worked. Even sometimes waking up in the morning with full on guilt, but not wanting to miss a day of work and finding his way to work every single time. I look at my husband and what he's achieved as a Pacific artist and just following his own passion, and always just feeling comfortable in his own space, doing his own thing. And then I look at our boys and I just think, far out, you know, what are they going to be capable of going on to achieve? It is just that you know, it is, we can't even envisage how great their futures would be. So there's so much ahead, and I think that we've got so many men that we can look back on who make us proud, including, like I said, that generation that came, that first generation that came over. And so there's everything to be positive about when it comes to our men, and those are the role models that we should be looking to as the example of what it means to be a Pacifica man.
Malo lover, Carmel. And you're right. I love the fact that our men need to be, I guess affirmed. Affirmed to say, hey, you do some great things. A lot of our men, and you're absolutely right, a lot of our men are doing some amazing things in the different spheres, different spaces. And so talking about your whānau, your kainga back again in terms of the legacy, you mentioned early on that we're getting a bit older. We are getting older. We got kids, we got grandkids and muckles and so forth. And so I often ask our guests, legacy, because legacy is what do you want to leave behind in terms of the legacy? What do you want to be remembered for? But more so for our young Pacifica woman, what do you want to be remembered? In terms of being in the space, but being more so Carmel Sepuloni.
Oh, good question. I think for certain, one thing I would want to be remembered for is creating space for more Pacifica women to be sitting at those decision-making tables, to be making it the norm that we would be sitting at those decision-making tables. I mean, I may have got to be Deputy Prime Minister, but that means the next generation that come through get to go above and beyond that. I came in off the back of only one other Pacifica woman having been a Member of Parliament, and that was Lua Manuvao Winnie Laban. She reached the heights of being an MP and a minister, and then I got to go on to be a Cabinet Minister and Deputy Prime Minister. So the legacy is one that we build on, and it means that the next generation of Pacifica women get to go even further. And so the legacy is that intergenerational leadership. It's not just about one person, not just about me.
Maro. And sticking with legacy, Carmel, what's the one thing you're most proud of to date today in terms of your political career thus far?
I think for me, having been the Minister for Social Development over that period of time, making a difference in the welfare space, it did become a kinder place during that 6 years. It was about the treatment of people, and it was taken much more seriously, the culture within the workplace. But we got to make some significant changes, including reversing Ruth Richardson's cuts to benefits. Now, keeping in mind that those cuts to benefits happened around 1991, at the very time my own parents lost their jobs. And so we were in households that got less because the government made the conscious decision to cut money from those people who couldn't find employment. They weren't lazy, they just couldn't find employment. And so to be the minister that got to lead the over $3 billion investment to reverse those cuts that had occurred was quite significant for me professionally and personally.
Hello. Carmel, what's your hope? What really is your ultimate hope for not only our Pacifica people, but for the nation? Let's say, hey, one day, maybe I'm just speaking it into existence, Prime Minister. And so, what's the hope for this nation of Aotearoa?
I've said this on the record. I'm not in this for a job. And so certainly have not had on my agenda that my aspiration is to be the Prime Minister. I've made that really clear. It is that we get to the point where every community in this country has the same or equal opportunity or equitable opportunity to get ahead, where our Pacifica whānau are as educated as any other group in this country. Our Pacifica whānau are earning as much as any other group in this country. Our Pacifica whānau own homes to the same extent as any other group in this country. I just want us to be on equal level pegging with everybody else, and to not be left behind, and to not have our potential realised as Pacifica people, our kids, our families, our communities. We just want to do as well as everyone else. And we're not at that point yet, and we haven't been at that point over the course of our time in this country. I want us to get there.
Malo. And I know it's kind of like the long haul. And what do you say to those individuals, whether they agree or disagree? And you're going to get that regardless. Hey, Carmel, you're going to get some people like, oh no, your policies and so forth, and no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. What do you say to those individuals who are just kind of just real cynical, blatantly that no, we just don't like change and they don't like to hear what Labour has to share all the policies at hand?
What do I have to say to them? Well, there's some people you can have a conversation with. There's some people that you can't rationalise with at all. And I'm always up for a debate. And I know that we won't always agree on everything. We can't agree on everything with everyone. But if people are willing to be fair and reasonable in their views and to hear each other out, because I'm certainly willing to hear others out, then that's all you can ask for. And if you walk away and you still disagree, then hey, it is what it is.
And then you come in with the back end.
And then you go around the corner and you backstab them to all your friends.
Oh, man, come out, because obviously the political realm, but also what's one thing, if you were given the opportunity, Carmel, what's one thing that you wish people knew about you outside of the politics, and you just wish you had the opportunity to share publicly, because you're in the public eye? What's one thing you wish, I just want to just be myself and do this, or do something creative, or do something that's funny? What's one thing you absolutely wish, man, I just want to do this, but because of who I am and my reputation, or because of in the public eye, I have to kind of dilute it or kind of keep it on the down low?
Oh, I don't know. I have to say Celebrity Treasure Island allowed me to show a different side of myself. Anyone that knows me really well knows that I am actually quite outdoorsy. I do love to be outside. I'm all good. Living a little bit rugged, that whole kind of camp life or having very little doesn't bother me. I enjoy it. And so that was an amazing opportunity for being able to do that and being able to show that side. I mean, I think, it's fair to say I certainly wasn't on there complaining about what we had to eat or about the living conditions that we were in, because I was just excited to be in that environment. So I got to do that, and I think I got to show a little bit of myself in that situation too.
Yeah, because you come, you seem like you walk in, and you think, okay, Carmel, she's obviously you're quite tall. So I'm assuming you're what 6'3", 6'2"?
No, yes, nearly 6'2".
6'2", and so you just you kind of like you demand leadership. There's an aura when you walk in, like leadership, and so it can be quite daunting for some people. But I think you have a funny side, you have a creative side. Obviously, you're with Darren Kamali, and so it's unfortunate that people don't see that often. And so because you're in the public eye, how do you think, or what do you think could be a way for you to just say, you know what, I'm just going to be just myself, 100%, my authentic self, even if I'm in the caucus or even if I'm in the cameras in the public?
I think I am. Like, I do try to I don't try, I just naturally am myself. And even recently we had to do this media training, and the guy that was taking it was saying, because he'd worked in the press gallery, that one thing with me is that I'm the same on camera as what I am off camera. And he said that that's quite rare. And so I am just naturally myself. I'm do really weird things, and my colleagues know this. I decided the other day, because I didn't have my 10,000 steps, that I was going to walk around the corridor over and over again until I got to my 10,000. And we ended up picking up people along the way. And by the end, we had 10 MPs walking round and round the corridor, just having a talanoa, so that we could all get our steps up. And so spontaneous and just doing weird things like that. Everyone knows, even the people that work with me, that if anyone's going to come up with some big new thing that we should do that's a bit out the gate, it's going to be me.
Hello. And you seem like you have that character, Carmel. And so, Carmel, it's been an absolute pleasure. And just one more question for me. What unfinished business and what dreams that are still lingering or still sitting in your heart that or things that we might be privy to or might see in the new chapter of Carmel Sepuloni?
Well, I want to refer back to what I talked about before. For me, it is about making sure that every community in this country gets to thrive to the same extent as every other one. And I don't want to see us at the bottom of every statistic that exists, like has been the case even up until this day. But in the event that we're successful at getting elected again next year, we're going to continue the work that we started, and we're going to continue with that goal of making sure that every New Zealander reaches their potential, because it's a sad loss to all of us when we don't make that or allow that to happen. So all about making sure that we are united in that and not wanting to be divisive as a country, and we'll just continue to focus on that goal of making sure that everyone gets ahead.
Malo lava soifua. And so, Carmel, absolute pleasure, absolute honour to have you. Whaftai tere lava, malo pito. And so just thank you so much for your time. I know you're a very busy lady. But every guest that comes on, we always give them a gift. And so I always do a bit of a caricature or a cartoon of how I envision our guests. And so on behalf of the Mandate team, we want to give you this.
What? That is so... Oh my God, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And who told you that would be a good gift?
Oh, I was just, I don't know. Someone just said, a little bird told me that it would be a great gift for you. But yeah, we always give a cartoon of a character of our guests. And so, Carmel, just thank you for your time. And I sit here, like I said, very proud. And regardless if people agree or disagree, you can't deny the fact that the hard work, the sweat, tears and blood and the mahi that you've done to be in this position. And so, like I said before, you represent not only your kainga, your family, your ainga, but you represent us as a people, but more so us as a nation. And so, whaftai tele lava, maaroa pito, and ofalai atu, alfa tele atu, ya mo oe maro ainga. And thank you very much. All the best with your endeavors in 2025, and looking forward to hearing more of the great work that you do. And so we're going to give you the last word. We'll give you the last word, and please, whatever you want to say to our men, our viewers, and our listeners, anything you want to uplift them or encourage them.
Well, firstly, I want to say that this is my first time ever doing a live podcast, so I think I'm behind the rest of New Zealand, but I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on here. Secondly, when I Googled searched mandate, I was wondering why I was coming on here because I thought it was all about men. But thank you for providing an opportunity for women to speak into this space as well. We don't operate in this world by ourselves as men and women. We work together. We're reliant on each other, and so I'm really appreciative of the opportunity to be on here. And to our men, our listeners out there, don't ever forget that we as Pacifica people are free and amazing.
Please don't forget to subscribe. Honourable Carmel Sepuloni.